at the end of the day, I still have no idea why people are complaining.
Yeah, I was wrong in my initial statement there. I was so optimistic that Nintendo would do good by us. We finally get to play N64 games wherever we want on the Switch. We can play them on the TV, we can play them in handheld mode. I mean, hell, we could even play them while you're trying to grope out a roper if we really needed to. But again, Nintendo loves to toy with our emotions and comes up short yet again. Good morning, you glorious gamers, Garbs here, and yes, the expansion pack is now released, and it's been a few days of playing it, and my review is... I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong, but it's not great. Nintendo is just the ultimate tease right now, and it's heartbreaking because it's reminiscent of the time in junior high when you would ask out the really popular girl, and she would say, yeah, let me think about it. Then you ask her the next week, and she says, yeah, let me think about it. And then you ask her the next week, and she's like, oh, actually, I have a boyfriend. Like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you toying with my emotions? I really should talk to someone and get over that, eh? Anyway, now before we dive even deeper into the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, don't forget to super smash that like button and hit subscribe so you guys can stay up to date with all things gaming, hear me rant, and apparently cry about my past. So right off the hop, Nintendo had a huge fumble with the actual release time. So we all knew it was coming out on the 26th. Was it the 26th? Now we all knew the date and it was going to be on the 25th, but they forgot to tell us the time. So logically you would think midnight. At midnight we would have access to play all these games on their new service. However, that wasn't the case. I actually had to dig to figure out what time we could download the new content. So there we are, we put our credit card down and we have access to the service for an additional $50 a year. No big deal, it's Nintendo 64, my favorite console. We downloaded it, and here's what we found. First of all, the user interface looks great, very similar to the NES and Super NES, no complaints there. The visuals look really quite stunning, but then we actually loaded into some of the games. So the first thing I noticed is it didn't feel like it used to. It felt a little clunky, just I couldn't really put my finger on it. Now I understand it's an emulator and it's not going to be the exact same, but it's Nintendo and these are some of their biggest IPs ever. So you would think that their emulation process would be really advanced and they would go really in depth with it so that we could have such a great experience, but that just wasn't the case. It kind of seemed like it was rushed or that they just kind of threw it on the plate and sent it out to us. There didn't seem to be that little level of love, care, and attention that we're used to seeing from Nintendo products. And one of the biggest things right out of the gate that I noticed was the controller. Now I was playing on my Pro controller and it just didn't fit with the control schemes of the N64. And what I mean by that is the way they had the buttons laid out, just it wasn't inherent to how you would want to play the game. So we have the A and B button, which makes sense because they're just going to make those the A and B button. However, what got really confusing is when it came to the Y and the X. So the Y was the left C button and the X was the down C button. I don't know about you guys, but having the down C button on the X location on the controller, they're complete opposites and it completely screwed with my brain, and especially for Zelda Ocarina of Time, because as you can see in the HUD, you have the C buttons up in the far corner and that's where your peripheral is gonna look and that's where you can see your inventory. When I'm playing and I notice that my bow is in the down C position, my natural instinct is to not press the upward facing button. So a lot of the times I would actually hit the downward facing button, which is actually my B button, so I'd swing the sword when I actually wanted to shoot an arrow. So that was really confusing. And like I said, you can't remap these buttons unless you go into your settings and remap your whole controller. It's not built into the online system, which is a huge, huge mistake on Nintendo's part. Now the other big thing I noticed was there was a lot of lag when it came to Ocarina of Time. More so than any other game, when I would press the B button to activate my sword, I had to wait a little bit. Now for those of you who have ever played the game, there are a couple bosses that you have to play essentially energy tennis with, and it's really difficult to time your strike when there's so much lag and the input isn't responding the same. So it actually is really frustrating and makes the gameplay experience just not as enjoyable. Now the graphics are a little odd because sometimes it looked really good or some aspects of the game looked really good and others seemed really kinda crappy. So when it came to the character models, even though yes it was blocky and kinda weird geometrics, they were at least hard, nice colored and straight lines, but some of the background textures were really fuzzy and it just didn't seem to fit how well the character model stood out. There's a lot of people complaining online that some of the water elements in Zelda were just odd and looked better on previous emulations that they had on the GameCube. Which brings me back to the beginning of the video, like, these are supposed to be Nintendo's prized games, right? The N64 was a huge success and people grew up on them, I grew up on them, and it was such an amazing experience. Why not put more love and attention into this? I mean, it emulated better on the Wii U Virtual Console than it does on their new online service, and I just don't quite get why they missed that. Now, maybe I'm in the minority here, but I was super disappointed when it came to the online service. Now, I was under the impression that the online service equaled matchmaking, and I was wrong. The online capabilities of some of these games are only if your friends have the Nintendo Switch Online service and the expansion pack. So there I was getting so excited. And maybe this is my own fault because I didn't look too far into it, but I was expecting to be able to log on to Mario Kart 64. I could play anyone in the world and it would bring the experience to a whole new level. Or God forbid they came out with GoldenEye and then, I mean, that would have been game over and everyone would have paid for this service. But no, it's only for your friends and your friends list, and we already know that the Nintendo Online service lacks some of the basic features that you would like for even your friends, like having, I don't know, built-in chat capabilities. So what is it that we're getting when it comes to the expansion pass? Because a lot of people are saying it's not worth the money, and I kind of have to agree, but we're still getting some really good things. It's just not executed correctly, or executed the way that we would have liked to see it. So the best analogy I have for the expansion pass is when you go out to dinner and you order a steak. Now you spend $50 on a steak and it's just okay. You know, the potatoes are warm-ish, the steak is cooked, but it's a little charred and your asparagus is kind of soggy. So it's not that it's bad, it was still pretty good, and the steak itself was good. But it wasn't the meal that leaves you so satisfied that you lean back, unhook your pants, and oh God, I just can't wait to eat here again. So trying to wrap it up here, the overall views on the expansion pack is it's a great idea in principle, and if you don't have access to these games, then yes, it's worth it because it's a ton of fun, but it'll leave a weird taste in your mouth at the end of the day. You will feel kind of underwhelmed and you were just hoping for more. Now, maybe Nintendo will realize what we're all saying, go back and fix a lot of these issues, and maybe there'll be more updates when they release more games. Then maybe it'll feel like a $50 meal, but currently, no, it feels like a $20 meal that we just spent $50 on, and just kind of leaves you feeling let down. Like when your dad promises to come to your baseball game and he still doesn't come. Man, that's like two deep emotional things I really should get out in one video, huh? Anyways, let me know in the comments down below how you're feeling about the expansion pack, what your experiences have been. I think overall we can all agree that Nintendo, great concept, just poor execution, and we need Nintendo to just kind of step up their game when it comes to their back catalog of amazing titles. So that's all for today, guys. Join me next time when we do a full review on the new Mario Party game that's coming out. It really looks like they're going back to basics, and I'm just so excited with all the reviews I've seen, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. But until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you online.